Well, welcome everybody.
I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be talking a little bit about Zonta and make it an informational session, very informal. And Donna Sroka, Governor of District 1, will be sharing the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mary. Never before has your voice mattered more than it does now. And that is one of the many reasons that I'm excited about people joining us and learning more about Zonta and what we do. We're an international organization, and we are currently looking at forming some new clubs, and we have other clubs in the area that are looking for new members. And this is an opportunity to learn more about what we do and why. So we're glad that you're here. The agenda for today is what is Zonta? Why Zonta? And a good news announcement. So what is Zonta? Zonta is a place where globally minded individuals connect, collaborate, and demand change to build a better world for women and girls. What's the Zonta vision? Zonta International envisions a world in which women's rights are recognized as human rights, and every woman is able to achieve her full potential. Such a world, women have access to all resources and are represented in decision-making positions on an equal basis with men. In such a world, no woman lives in fear of violence. So here's where we are. Currently, there's 1,100 Zonta clubs in 62 countries. As I was saying a little earlier, we're having more development of new clubs in Africa and in South America, and some clubs that are coming back in Poland. So it's a constantly developing organization. Being a Zontian is a member of global community. These pictures are from last June when we were at our international conference, which was in Hamburg, Germany. Every 2 years, we meet someplace in the world. In the next biennium, we'll be in Brisbane, Australia. And it really gives you the opportunity to meet and talk with women from around the world and hear a perspective that might be new and very different from what you were assuming. One of the things that I learned this last time when I was in Hamburg, I ended up meeting some women who were from Ukraine, and there's 3 clubs that we have there who are working a lot with refugees from the eastern part of the country and what they are doing. And I was talking with one of the women who we were just having tea together, and I said, well, where are you living now? And she said, well, I'm staying in London, but it's not my home. And I said, I understand. And she said, when we had to leave, it was with a moment's notice, and we just left our apartment, and I just took what was important. I took my key, the key to my apartment. I don't have the apartment anymore. It doesn't exist. I just have this key. And it just kind of sent shivers down my back, looking at, oh, I'm talking with somebody who's very different than experiencing it through the news network and learning, firsthand from somebody's experience while we were in Germany. So it's amazing. It really is. Locally, how do Zontians connect? Well, we have clubs that meet in person and meet virtually. And I guess the silver cloud of the pandemic is many of us got much better with Zoom, and doing international meetings became easy. It didn't matter if you were in the Philippines, or if you were in New York City, or if you were in Western Massachusetts, you could still meet. And so we're really looking now at Zonta in a new way. Zonta's been around for 100 years. And what worked then is different now. So that's kind of why we're doing more experimenting and thinking outside the box as to how does the needs are still there in many different ways, but how can we meet them? So that's one of the reasons that we're looking at e-clubs, and we'll talk more about that. Zonchans come together for service projects. So in some areas around here, we did a period project, which was just gathering feminine hygiene products to give to shelters and schools. And part of that was education that a lot of people don't realize that these luxury products are not available if you're on food stamps or SNAP. And so not only are we giving the service, we're also advocating legislation to make a difference there. And as you're probably all aware that some girls in some countries cannot go to school when they have their period. And once you stop your education, most opportunities go away. So that's one example. Advocacy is a big aspect of Zonta. And this is an area where we really, one, for example, is the child marriage. Here in Massachusetts, we were able to get legislation to stop child marriage if it is, if you're under the age of 18. And originally people were saying, why this is something in other countries have to deal with. And it really was an education and a wake-up call as we learned more about what was happening in our own area. And Massachusetts, Vermont, we've got a couple of states that have made these laws, but we've got 42 more to go. So that's one of the ways that we work on an advocacy level is we partner with other organizations who are also looking at some of these concerns. So as far as service projects, a lot of the clubs select their own by what their community is needing. And here's an example of some from around the world. And Zonta saying no to violence against women is also something that has been part of our foundation all along. And there's many ways of learning and helping to say no and stop violence. And one of the things, as we've learned through the pandemic, it just increased. So we're not out of the need of these services by any chance. This is Zonchans from Switzerland, and they decided to climb the mountain and show that they're going all out. But it's just kind of fun to meet people from different countries and really look at the energy and what they do for Zonta. One of the real benefits of Zonta is that you really get a chance to learn more of what is happening. There are events that you can celebrate with others, educational series, newsletters, a great website, apps, LinkedIn, and even a Zonta magazine that is in print form. So there's lots of ways that the communication happens. And Zonta support international projects. The Zonta Foundation for Women is the part of the organization that does the fundraising to work along with the UN, and we work with UN Women, UNICEF, and UNFPA to raise money and monitor the goals of those projects. The UN are the ones that are on the ground doing it, but we're supporting and really monitoring those. So the other opportunities that we develop, there's the international service projects, which these are the ones we're serving this biennium, which is adolescent girls' health and protection in Peru, engaging girls in climate change in Madagascar, and strengthening response to gender-based violence survivors, and ending child marriage. So those are international service projects, and we've so far donated almost $36 million to those projects, benefiting women in 71 countries. And the other things we do are on the education level. So just as I had said, there's really three components in Zonta. One is the advocacy I talked about. There's service projects, and then education. So the Amelia Earhart Fellowship is for women in aerospace engineering and space sciences. And Amelia Earhart herself was a Zontian. So,
And in the New York Club.
Yes. Yep.
You're right. I mean, it's so exciting when we look back at the women's shoulders that we that started and really kind of what they were involved with. And those are the type of women that have been involved with Zonta from the beginning. So we give scholarships, and I was able to present three of these to three amazing women this year that were at MIT and doing amazing work in the space sciences that I was not aware, and I learned so much. So it was great. The Jane Clausman Women in Business is for women who are in business careers. And the Young Women of Public Affairs Award is one that I'm really excited about because it's young women being high school, middle school age, who are very active in their in public affairs. They're doing things that just amaze me. I was with some young women in a town next to me, East Hampton, a couple of weeks ago for Earth Day, and what they were doing on climate change and bringing the message and communicating. And it was very powerful. And one of the things that Zonta is doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is how climate affects women. And that it is really, there's a lot more stress and trouble and things that impact women with the climate. So it was a great opportunity to work together with those young women. And when I was in Germany, they had some of the young women awardees, and there was a young woman who was from Sri Lanka that I ended up talking with, who was going to college at Mount Holyoke, which is in South Hadley, Massachusetts, like 5 minutes from me. So I've been able to mentor her, help her. We've had some great times together, helping her move into her dorm, and had an opportunity to talk to her mom in Sri Lanka, who was just very happy to have somebody halfway around the world looking out for her daughter. And that's what we do. I have a daughter, and somebody looks out for her at times. It's wonderful when we get to share that. And the Rose Fund is another opportunity for through the foundation that supports various contributions. And right now we're piloting a program for women in STEM. And we're really seeing that came out at the last convention, that people really were feeling a need to focus on getting more women in STEM and having more women at the table for those decisions being made. So here's a picture of some of the girls in Peru that we're working with. And as I was saying, we've been working with UNICEF for over 50 years now. So it's a real partnership that we have learned together, worked together, and it's through when we make decisions as to how we spend our fundraising money, it's with the benefit of what is the priorities and how can we make the most difference. So some of the things that we've done over the last few years is mobile medical units in Ghana, water wells in Sri Lanka, efforts to eliminate transmission of HIV in Rwanda, and education in Madagascar, and more. So these are some of the current international programs that we talked about earlier, and the women involved. And there's lots of great videos and resources to learn more about these programs. We are always wanting to elevate women into decision-making positions, and that as we've all heard and talked about, you've got to be at the table to make the decisions. If you're involved, it's very, you bring a whole new light and different experience to those decisions. Zonta says no to violence against women is one of our big advocacy projects that we work on all year, but specifically have times that we try to visualize and have color. Orange is the color that we kind of use to symbolize that we say no to violence. My slide went ahead here, but Zonta says now to gender equal climate action. And this is something new that Zonta is really looking at in advocacy, because it is now that we are having to pay attention to what is happening and realizing that gender equal climate action takes women to be involved, to educate the women and girls to learn how to adapt, mitigate climate change and impacts, advocating for women's rights, and really looking at gaps are in finance or land ownership, pay, STEM. There's so many aspects of how it impacts all of us. Inspire more female leaders in our communities, educate community leaders and corporate of how those decisions impact women and girls. A couple of examples with this. When you look at some countries that may be having a tsunami and the girls and women are not taught to climb a tree for safety or to swim, or some areas where they can't leave their home without a male companion, they're at bigger risk of dying in those environments. And in the United States, we have really experienced fires, floods, horrible weather that people have to evacuate on a moment's notice. And looking at where do they go and the various shelters, oftentimes they're not thought of and planned with a woman at the table to consider such things as, is there period products? Is there diapers? What are the resources that when people have to evacuate, and are they safe? Those are all aspects that we here are now needing to think about and plan. And it's really important to have women involved in thinking about this. So that's one of the areas that we're doing a lot more work with. And we're working with Australia, who's done some great, the Zonta groups in Australia have gotten some great resources together. And so we're working a lot with what they have. So that's a lot of just going over some of the basics of Zonta. And now we have a question for you. What aspect of Zonta appeals to you most? And this is, there's parts that resonate. And if you could add your interest into the chat, and we'll see what area that you might be most interested in. And the good news is that we want you to add your voice. So when you do belong to Zonta, you're part of this amazing global community. Become smarter on issues facing women and girls. Make a difference with your time, talents, and resources. Experience personal growth. Leave a legacy. So what are the next steps to being a Zontan? You got to have the desire to protect and support women and girls. And then you show your positive Zonta spirit, attend meetings as agreed upon by your club, participate in club activities, raise your hand to lead once you're ready, and pay annual dues, local, district, international. And a question that came up earlier, how much time really depends on your club. Sometimes a year may be more involved than others, and if you're working on a project, but it's always worth it when you're done. And I think one of the things we talked about earlier is there are times that you have more time than others. And so it is a balance that women are very good at doing because we juggle all our time all the time. So that is the little PowerPoint. And what I wanted to do is really take the time to Mary's going to talk about, some of the next steps and what we're looking at, but I really wanted to hear what resonated with you and any thoughts questions, ideas that you have that you'd like to share.
Well, given
Well,
the work, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no,
Susan.
go ahead. I was just saying, I'm just reminded about what a wonderful organization it is and why I was so involved when I was. And, you guys, we do good work and it's the fellowship. I mean, I still have friends from those days. So when you do work and you get to know people, you really form lifelong bonds.
Thank you, Suzanne. I think that is a wise and true statement. Gina, you were going to say something.
Yeah, based on the work that I've been doing with the, inner city moms, low income moms in Springfield and Holyoke, their willingness to experiment with having a voice is very exciting because we give them an opportunity to share and to talk. And I just wanted to share this last session. We have a Zoom class, or we have in person. And the in-person class the Zoom class that I have has got 10 moms. We've been together for 6 weeks now. The class is 8 weeks. And one mom said, I never had a chance to talk about how I feel and my feelings. We get to talk here. And then she said, we are breaking generational issues.
Mhm.
And I think that was what I heard in the mission of what Zonta stands for. And it's very exciting, to be on that, because I think it's a continual process. It doesn't get resolved. It's not done because we're dealing with whatever's out there. So,
And right, I think a little bit of there was a video that I didn't show of the 50 years of being part of the UN, and it's got some great scenes about, what women were getting together for in the 70s, and that whole thought that, oh, not only are we still dealing with some of those issues, it's taking some steps back right now, and it's just it infuriates me. And those of you who know me know that I tend to be, I've been a shyer person, starting a club and, having women get involved is something that, oh, somebody else will do it. And I've just gotten to the point where now I'm seeing it as really critical. We cannot do this alone. We have to do it with others, and the others are a lot others. It's really looking at the diversity that we need, men joining in, looking at areas and people in ways that we haven't done before, but it's not a time to sit back and wait. That's how I'm feeling. And Patricia, you wrote some things in the chat, and would you like us to share them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, what I was saying is that it had all resonated with me. I loved, honestly, each slide, I kept getting more and more inspired. But I think what really, because I'm so passionate about climate change, as you know, educating women on climate change was really a big pillar for me. That was one that just stood out. And I was like making a lot of mental notes to see, if there was a possibility of me being able to help in that regard, because it is something that's really critical. It's really, really critical.
I'm going to be shutting off the video, but I just wanted to talk to what you just said. members of the club decide what projects they want to work on. It's a grassroots effort in every club, whether it's an e-club or a club that meets physically. And what I love about Zonta is that regardless of what your interests are, there is so much wonderful information available through Zonta. You know, it's we have a capacity of gather wonderful, experienced professionals that are working together to gather information and make it available to everybody. We share all of this, so it's really inspiring to to work with these individuals.
Easy. How many, do you mind, this might be off topic, but how many, I know I saw that we said how many countries it's in, but how many members does Zonta have? And do we know what the makeup is, like DNA of women to men or the ratio of it?
There's
Oh.
very few men.
Very few men.
Yeah, we're really trying to build that up.
Yeah.
So one of the,
Not to put you on the spot. I'm sorry. I didn't know if
No,
it was
that's
like
okay.
information that was accessible. I didn't know.
I can, yeah, I can get it.
Let me stop the video here.
Yeah.
You mean the
And
you mean
let's
the
continue.
recording?
Yeah.